What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Never Lag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi, joined, of course, by the man who fell in the pit, Zach. And this is This Week in Gaming, where we come together and we talk about the news, the reviews, and the hot takes from the past week in video games. So thanks for joining us. If you're all about it, you can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/neverlag, and right here for free by watching on YouTube or listening wherever you get your podcasts from. So, without any further ado, let's get into some news. Let's talk games. How many stories do we have today?
We have 11 stories. Let's get into it. And our first story is fairly hot off the presses. I just saw this morning, but Starfield has officially been delayed. This is a bummer for me. I mean, not just because I'm interested in the game, but we always talk about our fantasy league. And I picked Starfield for my list since it was supposed to come out later this year. Levi counterpicked it, meaning that it has to stay on my list. I cannot remove it no matter what happens. And up until recently, I was starting to feel pretty good about it because we got the Bethesda Xbox showcase coming in like a month here. No doubt they're going to show us some stuff. Everybody's getting hyped. And here we are. So this is quite the blow to me personally. But let's read the quick statement Bethesda released on Twitter and on their blog. Bethesda says, we've made the decision to delay the launches of Redfall and Starfield to the first half of 2023. The teams of Arcane Austin, which is doing Redfall, and Bethesda Game Studios, which is doing Starfield, have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of them. We want to thank everyone for their excitement for Redfall and Starfield. That energy is a huge part of what inspires us all every day and drives our own excitement for what we are creating. They thank everyone for their support at that point. And then Phil Spencer kind of chimed in that he fully supported giving these teams time to release these games that are great when they're ready. He assuring everybody that they heard the feedback and that delivering quality and consistency was something that they really wanted to make sure and do. So again, I'm bummed on a personal note, for the fake money I have on the line in our league, but this is the fact that they're doing this inherently is a good thing because it sounds like there's no way this is ready. So yeah, what do you think about Starfield being pushed?
I mean, this is unequivocally and objectively good news to everyone because of my fantasy league. So,
Yeah,
no doubt there will be
exactly.
no doubt there will be much rejoicing
Yeah,
amongst the people. But no, but seriously, I mean, fantasy news aside, it sucks. Even though I was betting against it, uh, we don't know too much about the end of this year at this point, and I was kind of looking
yeah,
forward to this. Whatever this is going to be, I mean, I swear people think they know what this game is already, and we know so little about it. But I was looking forward to it, and yeah, fantasy wise though, this is a competition again finally because when you got me on Breath of the
I
Wild, it was
know.
pretty much over. So now we're kind of even.
I got
We can stay
cocky,
competitive
and
for the rest of the year. You
the
got
universe
cocky,
is
yeah.
like,
Well,
you know what?
and this is why I counterpicked it is because
Mm-hmm.
there were just enough things that it felt like if Bethesda, the thing that was weird is that Bethesda set this date so far out. I mean,
Yeah,
just way further out than is common, and so that kind of plays with your mind, and you're like, why set a date that far out? They must really know they can hit this. Well, it turns out no one knows they can hit anything. Never think that. So, and with the ambition that this title seems to have, and the stakes involved, I mean, this is like make or break for Bethesda. They've really had a
yeah,
rough run of it lately. Um, it's also continues to be high stakes for Xbox as they just struggle to have that first party app killer that
right.
Halo kind of failed to be. A lot of people love Forza, but I don't really know you even qualify that. So they're still searching for this game, and just all the weight that was on this game and the scope, it felt inevitable with the past 2 years the way it was that it would slip. And I was starting to get worried because people were feeling confident about this, but sure enough, here we are. And
Yeah.
part of what makes me concerned, I don't know if you have it in this article here, but somewhere they mentioned, the developers mentioned Cyberpunk as like a, if we don't delay this, we're in for a Cyberpunk awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is incredibly concerning, because for this to be delayed from, I think they were aiming for November of this year to first half 2023. So let's say 6 months at most. It's just hard to imagine that if the term cyberpunk type disaster was spoken, 6 months, if cyberpunk was delayed so many times, if it had been
Yeah.
delayed another 6 months, would it have come out polished? No. I mean, we're a year plus away, and it's almost getting to the point where maybe it should have been. So this really
Right.
concerns me, because now look at I just have a lot more trepidation about this at this point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like they're going to want to push this out eventually, and maybe this game needs to be 2024. Who knows? Like, it
Yeah.
just concerns me.
Yeah, that's the tough thing. And I was I was going to bring up the same thing about the internal developers comparisons to, like, we may have another Cyberpunk on our hands if this is the date we're supposed to launch. And this is how I felt with Cyberpunk, is like, on the one hand, I'm glad they're delaying it. On the other hand, are they being realistic with their delay? Like, they're saying first half of 2023, which buys them up to 7 months, I think. 6 to 7 months, which, if it is truly at the Cyberpunk, now this is going off of some rumored reports from an unidentified number of developers. So how apt the comparison to Cyberpunk is, I don't know. But the fact that that is the sentiment internally for some developers makes me really worried, because, like you said, Cyberpunk wasn't ready 6 months after launch. It took over a year. It's now, I think most people agree, it's now in a pretty good state overall, and we're like a year and three, or we're like a year and a half in from Cyberpunk's, almost a year and a half from
Yeah.
Cyberpunk's launch. So it took over a year.
Yeah. And
This is
that's
the
kind of
same
where, I
thing.
mean, every time
Yeah.
we get a delay, the general response, I mean, people are disappointed, but the general response is people saying, okay, fine, just make sure, better to delay it than to release it in a poor condition. And
Right.
that's all true. The problem is, personally, I'm at a point where I'm so jaded with all of this that you delay your game. I don't, that doesn't give me confidence that the game is going to be finished when you launch it still, just
Yeah.
because you delayed it
Yeah.
once doesn't mean you delayed it enough. So that's my concern. The delay is fine. Take your time. It sucks. But these publishers, they need to they need to delay it till it's done, not just
Right.
till it's cobbled enough together to throw out the door.
And
So
and
I hope
that's
this
the open
is
question.
enough time.
Yeah, that's the open question, is like, is the first 6 months of 2023 enough time? If it is, great. I'm glad they're taking the time. Like you said, I think most gamers would rather the game be good. What gets frustrating is if they delay it 3 months, 6 months, and they realize we still need another year, but they say, you know what, we're going to launch it in 6 months from now. And because that's what happened with Cyberpunk, is like they kept moving the goalposts. But the problem was that their original expectations were just so far off that not only were they still nowhere near ready when they finally launched, but they had kind of eroded the trust by delaying it so many times in a short period of time. So hopefully this is like, they kind of have a real sense for what is left, and we're going to get the game in a really good state. The the launch of Fallout 76 doesn't give me a ton of confidence, but
Yeah.
my hope is that that burned them enough, and then the sentiments and fallout for CD Projekt Red, I'm hoping those things are going to give the executive team the worry and caution to let their developers help set those deadlines, versus what it sounds like is,
Yeah.
hey, we need to hit November of 2022, and the developers are like, this isn't realistic. So
Yeah,
I guess we'll
those are
see.
my concerns too. Those are my concerns too, because Bethesda doesn't inspire confidence lately. Um, they're known for launching games in a very buggy state, right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
bar. And then Xbox wise, it's like they came out and they made the very tough decision to delay Halo a year out from the Xbox Series X launch, right? That's huge. That took away that launch title from the
Mm-hmm.
console launch. Um, so that's all great. And you think, okay, man, they really committed to making sure the game was finished. But when Halo launched, it still wasn't finished.
Yeah.
It didn't even have the co-op campaign, which is a main integral feature to a lot of people. Um, so that too kind of just makes me think, Halo could have been delayed another 6 months and it probably would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And Microsoft didn't do that. So I don't know. Track records are not good. It's hard to envision companies, as soon as they can get their money, these bigger publishers kind of want to get it. And especially with a Game Pass model, it's hard for me to see them pushing this as far as they probably need to, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. We'll see you all here in 6 months, 12 months, whenever that is. And in the meantime, let's move on to our second story. And this is about Gotham Knights. So the news here is that Gotham Knights is reportedly abandoning their last gen version. So originally they were planning to release Gotham Knights not just on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. They were originally planning to release it on PS4 and Xbox One, but now they've announced that, please note, to provide players with the best possible gameplay experience, the game will only release on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Will not be available for the older generation of consoles. So this is actually really interesting. You and I have talked at length about this idea of when does next gen actually start. Like, we came out of the gate with PS5 and the new Xbox Series, and it felt like a new generation for like one or two games. And then Ratchet for PS5, Ratchet came in middle of last year, felt kind of next gen. But other than that, it feels like we've actually kind of been mostly floating back towards a hybrid previous gen mix. So in my opinion, I'm kind of glad for this. Like, I know it sucks for people who don't have the newer gen consoles, but in terms of where the industry's headed and what we can really do, I think this is beneficial. Like, if we look at the recent trailer of Gotham Knights, it looks like this is going to help it be a fully realized next gen title. It's supposed to be a massive open world, like in Gotham, with all these heroes. It seems like it's meant to have a lot of traversal options, including like gliders, where you're flying over the city, as well as motorcycles, where you're speeding through a complicated, labyrinth of city streets. There's multiple different characters. So I think the hope here is that we're going to see something that feels on par with like Spider-Man Miles Morales. Like, that's what I would love to see realized at a large scale, making use of the SSD and the other capabilities of these newer pieces of hardware. So I think I'm glad for this, but what do you think?
Yeah. For me, I think this is good news. I think we all know my stance on this. I'd have to go back and look, but it sure seems like this has been the longest, not gap, overlap of a console generation transition that we've ever had. Um, and it's been a bummer for those who were early adopters. There's always that's kind of how it always goes as an early adopter. I think this is just purely a case of how many consoles are out in the wild, and we're at a point now where, um, I think the market is close to being sated. I think there's still a lot of demand. Obviously, there's still people trying to get their hands on a console, but I think by and large, there's a lot of these units out there at this point in time. They probably looked at their game, and it probably was running like butt cheeks on PS4 and Xbox One X. I always forget the previous version of
I think it's
Xbox,
just,
but
yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Xbox One X, yeah. It's probably similar to Cyberpunk, right? But the problem is Cyberpunk came out much, much closer to
Yeah.
the new generation of consoles, and so they couldn't turn down last gen. They looked at it, they saw dollar signs. Logistically, they couldn't turn down last gen. Now we're at a point where companies are looking at the PS4 version of their game they're trying to make, and they're like, man, this is just not. It's not running very well. And you know what? There's enough current gen consoles out there now. I think we
Yeah.
can drop this. It's not worth the work to make it run. Effort to dollars. So yeah, this is great. And like you said, it's how long does it take for the next generation to start? And hopefully
Mm-hmm.
we're at that point, but we're still not because I mean, is Starfield even confirmed to be on the next gen? Maybe it is, but like God of War Ragnarok is cross gen. We're
Yeah,
getting close. I
we're
think
getting
as we
closer.
round out 20, I think as we round out 2022, we will officially be in the current generation of consoles, which is a mere 2 years after they launched. So I'm excited. Like you said, it's a bummer for anyone who really can't get their hands on a console. But I do think that number is dwindling if you're really trying and want to.
Yeah.
Um,
You also
I'm
have till
curious.
October, so
Yeah, yeah,
this game doesn't come
and
out
there
till
was
November.
another. Yeah, there was another report recently that said Sony is projecting to have much more PS5 consoles available, and Microsoft's already done a better job of that than Sony. Xbox
Mm-hmm.
Series X's have been much easier to get. So, anyways, as far as the gameplay, I was curious what you thought about it. I know you picked this game for your fantasy league, which is what we're all really here for, not the news. But we finally got our first glimpse at some extended gameplay of, I forget which two characters they showed off, but it really did look very Spider-Man. I mean, it looked like Insomniac
Yeah.
Spider-Man, but the Batman without Batman version. And I don't know, what'd you think of what we saw?
It looked cool. The characters looked neat. The world looked big. Um, the little that I've seen looks pretty neat. I'm excited for it. And personally, I loved the PS4 Spider-Man. That looked great for a PS4 game. And then Miles Morales looked. It felt like a next gen version of Spider-Man. And even though it was a little shorter, it was felt like a very premium PlayStation 5 experience. And what I've seen so far of Gotham Knights looks like that. And I'm excited. I really enjoyed the first one or two Arkham Knight games back in the day. I haven't played all of the games along the way, but I've kind of been wanting to get back into it. I really like Batman in his the Batman extended universe, or whatever you'd call it. I guess it's just Gotham, but um, Batman's always been my favorite, but some of the characters in this look cool. Like I'm interested to learn more. We've gotten so much Batman. I'm interested to learn more about Nightwing, and I'm forgetting the name of the other guy who's in the trailer, but he has a super cool costume. Um, it looks pretty neat, and the fact that it is confirmed to just be next gen has me excited to uh, anticipate a real like next gen experience later in the year, because it feels like the last true next gen experience I've had on PS5 was summer of 2021 with Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, I agree. This game, I'm excited for it because I haven't played the the Gotham, Gotham Knight. I haven't played those games really. I've for minutes maybe I've dabbled, but I've largely not played them, and they're very beloved.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed Spider-Man. I thought it had some flaws. I feel like the New York City was pretty barren and not a lot going on. But this game really does look like it kind of pulled a lot from what Insomniac did, a lot of the good things. And I really like the darker tone of Gotham and everything. I'm very excited to get into it and explore that world. I love how he dropped into a mission and you're inside the building, and just the completely different aesthetic of Gotham
Mm-hmm.
compared to your Spider-Man New York City, right? I think it looks like a lot
Totally.
of fun. I love that this is not a multiplayer live service type game. I love that this is going to
Yeah.
be a Spider-Man type game with co-op, which may very well be what the next Spider-Man game is going to be as well, by the way. But
Mm-hmm.
um, my anticipation for this game is growing. So, and with Starfield moving, and who knows what else will happen at the end of this year, this one might be one of the kind of marquee games to hit this fall.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's just what I was thinking is this is kind of feeling like one of the games I'm actually going to be looking forward to for later in the year, given that there's not as many things slated for throughout the rest of the year. Um, so yeah, it's exciting. Gotham Knights releases, I believe it's October 25th, only on next gen consoles and PC. So we'll talk about it more as we learn more, but so far it looks pretty great. Um, let's get into our third story. Trek to Yomi. We have a review roundup. We've been fairly eagerly awaiting Trek to Yomi on this channel. It looks really beautiful. And so now the critic reviews are in. On OpenCritic, it's sitting at a 73. On Metacritic, it's sitting between 70 and 73, depending on the platform. Seems like it's around 70 for PlayStation 5, and then 72 or 73 for Xbox or PC. So overall, the scores are a little bit middling. couple of highlights. We have George Yang from PC Gamer, who gave this a 55 out of 100 and says, "This is a gorgeous game with frustrating combat and glitchy exploration. Trek to Yomi is the definition of style over substance." We also have Aran Sudi from the Sixth Axis, who gave this a 6 out of 10. And Aran says, "Trek to Yomi is a game that really does evoke the style of Kurosawa films, with a good story and good characters. However, it is let down by a combat system that can feel clunky and unresponsive against enemies that are a little too straightforward to defeat. If you enjoy side scrollers and samurai, then it may be worth spending the few hours it takes to play through it." And finally, we have Ian Blank from Jump Dash Roll, who gave this a 7 out of 10, a little bit more positive, and said, "For fans of Japanese cinema, this game is a must play. For everyone else, while you're sure to be wowed by the visuals, you'll probably find the gameplay a little too light and repetitive to hold your attention for very long." So, yeah, what do you think about this? I know this was more on your list than mine, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked really cool. I mean, they showed it off a couple months ago, and it immediately kind of skyrocketed to the top of my indie, indie anticipated games that were coming out. But about a month ago, they showed off some actual gameplay, like a gameplay trailer. And I noticed it. I went into the comments like everyone does after you watch something, right? To validate your concerns. But the combat looked very one-dimensional, very just not a lot going on, not even a rock, paper, scissors, just kind of like you do the same thing over and over to kill these enemies. So that was concerning.
Square. Yeah.
Yeah, that was concerning for me. And I actually was looking at this game based on how gorgeous the art style is. I mean, even in all of these negative reviews, everyone says this game is a piece of art. It's like phenomenal looking, right? Maybe even worth the price of entry just for that. But, I was considering grabbing this for the Fantasy League. And after seeing the gameplay, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is going to be it. And sure enough, here we are. This is pretty middling to bad. And based on what I've seen, actually, this is now something that I probably will not pick up or play. It's on Game Pass. Probably won't even play it on Game Pass because, and this is me personally, I've been discovering over the past year or so that for me, gameplay is king. And you can have the most beautiful game, the most artistic game, the best storyline. I will still become frustrated with the game. The redeeming factor is that this is a shorter game. So that has it going for it. I think it's like 5 to 7 hours maybe. But I got to have gameplay. Otherwise I get frustrated and just be like, well, just be a movie, be a TV show, be something else. Why do I have to engage with this very minimally in order to see what I want to see, So
these reviews made
kind of a bummer.
Why not just go watch a Kurosawa film?
Exactly. Why not just use the Kurosawa? Well, yeah, why not use the Kurosawa filter on or mode on Ghost of Tsushima? I mean, that's
the other thing.
Far superior experience.
We have so many games that manage to pull off style and aesthetics plus good to great gameplay that why would you settle for bad to really lacking gameplay just for aesthetics? Like there's too many games for that to be worth it for a lot of people. Again, I think if you absolutely love samurai stuff, if you love Kurosawa films and that aesthetic, then it might still be for you. It's also pretty short. I think it's $20. So it's not super expensive. And again, it's on Game Pass as well. So it's probably worth it there's a certain group of people who I think probably know this is still worth it for me. But
there are people who I think are more okay with a very lightly interactive, like gameplay is, just kind of there, but the experience is worth it to you. There are people I think that play games like that and enjoy that. It's just not me personally. So this is a bummer. This is a bummer. I think if the gameplay was there for this game, if we were talking like, Sekiro or Ghost of Tsushima type, tight windows and tight combat and kind of some depth there to how you engage each enemy, I mean, I would have been all over this game. I was very excited about it based on how it looks. So kind of a bummer to see that it didn't quite land in that category.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move on. Our fourth story is acquisitions. The acquisition wars have commenced. And they've been going on for a while, actually. But the Embracer Group has acquired Eidos and Crystal Dynamics, as well as Square Enix Montreal. So these three different studios from Square Enix will be acquired by holding company Embracer Group in a $300 million deal, as Embracer announced in a press release. Phil Rogers, CEO of Square Enix America and Europe, was quoted as saying that Embracer is the best kept secret in gaming, a massive decentralized collection of entrepreneurs whom we are thrilled to become a part of today. So this is interesting. The three studios to be acquired that we mentioned, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal, are working on Tomb Raider that will leverage Unreal Engine 5. Eidos Montreal is responsible for the recent Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out, I think it was last year, that most people really liked. It didn't sell quite as well as I think many thought it should have, but it had pretty good reviews. And then Square Enix Montreal is known more for mobile games, so Hitman Go, Lara Croft Go, Deus Ex Go. So anyway, huge catalog of games. The back catalog within these three studios also includes Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain's a big one that a lot of gamers are excited about. So kind of a big deal. And this is crazy because Embracer is going to have more than 14,000 employees after this, 10,000 game developers, 124 internal studios. And it is confirmed that it now has more than 230 games in development at those studios, 30 of which are AAA titles. So pretty big company at this point. But I feel like I'm just kind of blown away. 300 million for all of these studios and
Yeah,
properties
that's
seems
that's
like an
what I was going to
incredible.
jump in on.
Go ahead, but I just think that seems like a too
Yeah.
good of a deal, honestly.
No, yeah, this is so bizarre to me. It makes me wonder what's going on behind the scenes here. At who's the Square Enix Holdings, right? That's the
Yep.
main. So, like, what is going on over there? A lot of people have said that this is them preparing their books, and they're leaning down to be acquired themselves, you know. But I don't know. I guess I'm not smart enough to understand that, because how does getting rid of some of your value? I don't know. It's very weird. And after the amount of money we've seen thrown around by Sony and especially Microsoft for,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what Sony just put down for Bungie a couple months ago, and
Yeah.
300 million. I mean, I guess logistically, if you can't take on this amount of employees, that's something to consider. But at 300 million for the IP alone that they're getting,
I'm surprised that they
you just,
didn't get more for it. Like I can
yeah,
understand, okay, we need to offload, like we have too many employees on the books. Like we need to be a leaner operational expenses. So we can't have all these employees, and we can make a bunch of money. We need a cash infusion. My guess is those are components of this. But again, like how come this didn't go for a billion or more? Like especially looking at Bethesda selling for, what was it, 6.7 billion or something like that. Blizzard Activision obviously going for about 68 billion. Bungie recently sold, I'm forgetting for how much, but it was a handful of billion at the very least.
I think they were around 12. I can't remember.
Maybe, but it was, point is, it was billions, right? So it just feels like for all of those back catalogs, some really big titles in there too. Tomb Raider, Deus
Oh
Ex,
no, I'm totally
Legacy of
wrong. It
Kain.
was 3.6.
Okay, but
It
still,
was
point being,
less.
like, that's still an
Yeah.
order like magnitude greater. It just
No, yeah.
it seems like they negotiated poorly. Like,
Yeah, like it leaves
I
me
don't
to
know.
wonder. I mean, if you think about this, right? Everyone, we're in acquisition season. It's begun. You're telling me that if you opened up these IPs and even the employees, there's a lot of talent at these studios, not to be lost in this whole equation. If you took this to both Sony, Microsoft, and Embracer Group, it just leads me to believe that Sony and Microsoft weren't interested. I mean, and I guess it's just hard for us to say because I can't properly place value. I don't know, but the general consensus seems to be that this is kind of
Yeah,
shockingly low feeling. And so, and the other side of the situation here with Embracer Group, I mean, Dark Horse here, like they kind of feel like almost out of nowhere they are a large player
yeah,
in the gaming space now, especially as we start to hear these rumblings of Square
yeah.
Enix as a whole or Ubisoft being acquired, it kind of feels like Embracer Group is trying to fill that void, that vacuum,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to kind of step up and be one of the next Ubisoft, or maybe they're even bigger than that at this point. But we'll see. The money's,
Right.
or the proof is in the games. We'll see. They
Yeah.
they have their work cut out. Turning, I mean, as big of an IP as Tomb Raider is, like that's probably the marquee. That's the word of the day apparently. But would you say that's the biggest IP here? I mean, Deus Ex.
Tomb Raider's probably the most well known, but there's a few big ones.
Yeah,
Deus Ex is big. Legacy of Kain maybe is a touch more niche, but is very beloved.
which I think they mentioned
Guardians
that
of the
specifically.
Galaxy is another big one.
That's true. Yeah, Guardians did really well, although that was a licensed. I don't know that they can claim rights to that, obviously, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
as
know.
big as Tomb Raider is, right? It's one of the founding fathers of video games, or early
Mm-hmm.
video games, right? Um, it kind of has
Yeah,
its work cut out for it for sure. I mean, recent games have not done as well. Maybe all that is why this is so low, but very weird. It's just a weird acquisition overall, and
yeah.
it won't be the last. So
It won't. Well, we do get a slight glimpse into why Square Enix is doing this. So they share in their execution of share transfers agreement with Change to subsidiaries, which is a very friendly title to what is no doubt some wonderful bedtime reading. Essentially, some of the documentation and paperwork for the transaction. On the first page, it has one purpose of transaction, and it says the transaction will assist the company in adapting to the changes underway in the global business environment. Some nice buzzwords there. By establishing a more efficient allocation of resources, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain. In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. The move is based on the policy of business structure optimization that the company set forth under the medium term business strategy unveiled last year.
yeah, that's
Um,
right. I remember them saying that.
so it's very clear that this is kind of funny timing too. So it's very clear that this is they're anticipating blockchain, AI. No doubt there's like other crypto and NFT related. I won't use the word schemes, legitimate businesses that they want to consider, um, that they're excited about. That is one direction that people are looking for games. That I think there's a lot of gamers who don't love that direction. A lot of businesses up until very recently have been heavily interested in this. What I find funny is they make this announcement recently within the past week. The crypto market in the I mean, tech stocks across the board are plummeting, but the crypto market is tanking. NFTs are tanking. So it's
It's very
I don't know.
confusing, and it just
It
feels
feels
like
like
they're
bad timing on their
devaluing.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It feels like whoever's at the wheel really is off in La La Land, and they've really. It seems like they have devalued their own products and their
Yeah.
own IP, and it makes me concerned for Square Enix as a whole, and it really makes me want any IP I care about to be separate from them, and I don't know if that'll ever be possible. You look at
Mm-hmm.
the Final Fantasy
That's
seven
what I was
remakes
thinking.
and
Yeah.
things like the Final Fantasy 16, like these games that a lot of people care about. It's like, let's get it away from Square Enix because they feel like they need a minute to sort
Yeah.
out their crazy.
I agree. I mean, I think two things here. One, they sold a bunch of properties. Whether or not, like, sure, they decided they didn't want to manage these, they wanted to sell them. Okay. It seems like they undervalued them. They sold them for far less than it feels like they could have got. We don't know all the details to that, but that's what it feels like. The second piece is their strategy and focus moving forward is blockchain, is AI. It seems focused in the crypto NFT space. And with those things tanking 80-90% loss in value over the past week plus, uh, who knows, maybe some of that'll bounce back, but it feels misguided. So I can only hope that whether or not they're misguided with a lot of their stuff, they at the very least still still develop our Final Fantasy series well. But I guess we'll
Yeah,
see.
hopefully.
All right, let's keep going. Our fifth story: Sony is hiring an acquisition manager, is what it seems. So PlayStation has posted that they're hiring for a director of corporate development to help identify acquisition opportunities and bolster its collection of first-party studios. So It's very much seems right in line with all of these talks of acquisition season, as you mentioned. Um, this is a clear sign that Sony, at least, is stepping up to be in the ring with Microsoft, which I don't think is unexpected. And I guess I'm generally glad about. Like, we want Sony to have really strong first party games. And so if there are acquisitions that make sense, all right. I mean, it's more of that consolidation. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't. My opinions haven't changed much on this. They will acquisitions will continue, and I guess it's good that they're putting the infrastructure in place to properly handle it, because the worst thing you can do is acquire hundreds, if not thousands, of employees and not have any idea what you're doing with them all. So this really does need its own team making sure that
Yeah.
you don't bite off more than you can chew. So I'm curious to see, more than anything, I'm curious to see what this ends up in, and who Sony end up acquiring. There have been
Yeah.
rumors just flying around, really intensifying lately about recently. I think it was Jeff Grubb and Greg from Kind of Funny saying that what they had heard, a lot of people saying what they had heard, is that Sony were deep in talks to acquire, I believe it was Square Enix. And so,
Yeah.
with Square Enix doing what they're doing recently with the acquisition or lack thereof, the selling of their IP, yeah, I'm very curious to see at the end of 2022 who owns what, because I feel like we haven't seen the end of this for this year even.
Yep. It's crazy, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but acquisitions are afoot.
They are afoot.
All right, let's keep moving. Our sixth story is about Overwatch, the popular game from what 6-7 years ago that I guess is still around. Um, so Overwatch 2 is on the way, and they
Wait! You forgot
launched it.
this.
Oh yes, thank you. Overwatch 2, a legitimate and real game, has released their beta, and we'll talk about the reactions to that in a minute. The main thing here is there are a few differences in Overwatch 2's beta, but it the main contention is like, is this even a sequel? So they're changing it from six on six gameplay to 5-on-5. There's one new game mode called Push, which is like a tug of war type thing. There's one new hero called Sojourn. It's like a DPS mobility based build. They've made a few changes to some of the other characters in terms of like how they play, what type of class they are. But that's kind of it. People are saying on Twitter, it's not really about what they're adding; it's about what they're removing to the game, and the nature of the game is kind of changing. The positive sentiments, we have someone on Jason Guisao from Game Informer, who says Overwatch 2 feels like a redemption arc for the series. And he will link the article. He kind of talks about why. But overall, the sentiments are mostly negative. So we have YouTuber Jason Gastro, also known as Video Game Donkey, who called the beta a minor patch to an abandoned game, which is harsh, but kind of feels somewhat accurate. Um, an article on Metro.uk from Game Central says that Overwatch 2 doesn't feel like a sequel. It doesn't even feel like a DLC expansion. It just feels like an above average sized patch with a new character, a few new maps, and minor revamps for the existing lineup. This isn't the full game, admittedly, so presumably more is to come, but I wouldn't presume too much given how bare bones Overwatch has always been. So the one other thing people are noting is that we'll show a video, but the visuals don't really look like a sequel either. It looks pretty much like the same game. The other thing worth noting is the beta released a few days ago or within the past week, and within a day of launching, the amount of Twitch streamers watching dropped by 99%. So 1.5 million people were watching Overwatch 2 beta play on Twitch. A day later, that was down to 15K people. So it seems like not a whole lot of substance here. What are your thoughts on Overwatch 2?
Overwatch 2. I feel like this whole thing has been bungled so badly. And I guess you just point to Activision and the completely, not even hot mess, just mess that they've been of the past few years. And how much further do you need to look? I guess that's just what it is. They just lack leadership. They have bad leadership over there. They have a lot of toxic work environments going on. They have a lot to fix. And it feels like this is just an enormous casualty of that entire situation, because you look at
Mm-hmm.
day one numbers, 1.5 million. The Overwatch brand still has, I mean, you think about that competitive shooter, team-based shooter um, genre, impossibly competitive. Like,
Yeah.
those come out all the time and they flop immediately. They can't break into the market. Overwatch had that, it captured that, place in time. It had that name. It had all the people playing it. It had everything to be successful. And it feels like they've really squandered it here. And it still has the name value. I mean, the 1.5 million day one shows that,
Yeah.
but then everyone sees there's just nothing. There's no substance to this quote unquote sequel here that
Yeah.
they're pumping out. So
Yeah.
it doesn't affect me too much. My competitive days are behind me. I retired back in Destiny 1 before I threw a controller at my TV. So too competitive for my taste, but yeah, I mean, it's been well publicized that this is kind of a joke. And also the bar for an expansion, the bar for a patch of a game has continued to increase over the past
Yeah.
5 years, right? Like, games pump out free patches on sometimes monthly
Mm-hmm.
bases that are free and dramatically impact the game and add new stuff. And so people are much more skeptical to look at expansions, paid sequels under this light of the current state of the gaming industry. And this is just looks very bad by comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like they're trying to capitalize on it's a sequel. We're going to make a bunch of money off sequel sales, but they're trying to release content like it's just an update, which, like you said, how people perceive value of that type of content has drastically changed. And I think one other issue with Overwatch 2 is it's noted that this game really fails in terms of uh, the role queue, and so they're attempting to solve the issue of helping more people play as tanks because there's not enough tanks. But the way they go about it seems to have exacerbated a lot of the problems. So we'll link an article that has some of the details, but yeah, it's a bummer to see. Maybe they'll get their act together. Unlikely, but yeah. Let's move on to our seventh story. The Summer Games Fest now has dates associated with it, so which is awesome. June 9th is the Summer Game Fest, which will be like a live cross-industry showcase of announcements and games. June 10th will be the Tribeca Game Spotlight, which will feature exclusive gameplay and creator interviews from Tribeca's official selections. And then June 12th will be the Xbox Plus Bethesda Showcase. And allegedly, there's going to be a 90-minute showcase from Xbox. Personally, I'm curious what we're going to see from Starfield, especially given that it's now been pushed. Like, how much do they have to show us? Hopefully, I would like to see something still, but now that they've pushed this out potentially 6 months, I'm kind of curious what we're going to see there. But what are your thoughts on the Summer Games Fest?
This is awesome. My favorite thing about this is that look at how tiny it is. Last year it was just like, it felt never ending. Um,
Yeah,
they had their, whatever they called it, their kickoff to the um, summer games. I don't remember what they called everything. That was part of the problem. There was like this, and then 2 weeks later there was this, and 2 weeks later there was
yeah,
this, and it was just like the never ending amorphous blob of video game announcements.
yeah.
And so anyways, I love that this is what, 3 days here. So
It's spread across
this
4 days,
feels
but it's 3 different days.
4 days, sure. This feels like Jeff Keighley really targeting E3, like just
Mm-hmm.
trying to take E3's lunch money and establish the new E3 this year, finally, which is good. Um, Personally, I don't care if it's E3. I don't care if it's Jeff Keighley. I just want an E3 type experience every year
Yeah,
that's consolidated within a week, where we just get this parade of games and gaming news and announcements. And hopefully it looks like we're going to get closer to that this year, because
yeah,
last year was just They tried, but it was just when something's spread out over 3 months, it's not even remotely the same. So this is awesome. I do
Yeah,
wonder how much Starfield we're gonna get. I kind of feel like my expectations have now gone from like gameplay, full 20 to 25 minute block for Starfield down to 10 minutes or less.
same.
I do really hope that we get some gameplay. I think we will. If we're about a year out, I imagine they have 3 to 5 minutes of gameplay to show us. Hopefully that's the case. We'll see. Like we talked about before, though, what I'm most excited about is things we don't know about. I want to be surprised by a few things. Hopefully, I guess that's what we're always looking for. And the other thing is just like Sony, where are you at? Like, I'm so tired of this aloof and just impossible to put your finger on Sony company that I just feels like we are always perpetually waiting for their showcases,
Yeah.
and they just never come. They never announce them,
Mm.
and then they do announce. Oh, they'll probably announce, hey, June 8th, we're gonna have a big state of play, and it'll probably be like nothing, and we'll
Yeah.
still be waiting. It's just what it feels like with Sony, and I'm so tired of it. Like, just join the other. Let's get all of gaming together. Stop being
Yeah.
this annoying company that refuses to make our dreams come true. It's frustrating me.
I know everyone. It's annoying when they're trying to be their own special little thing.
Yeah,
There you have to go to Sony for this and this other company for that. Like, let's just have a gaming holiday. But um, that's I think a lot of
yeah,
gamers would like that. But yeah, it's cool. So uh, that's coming up. That's about a month away. So looking forward to that. All right, our eighth story. Xbox is planning to launch a new streaming device as well as smart TV capabilities. So this is kind of in line with their bringing Xbox to wherever you as a player are, which is an initiative they have. And their goal is to add Fortnite and a few other games to Xbox cloud gaming. And so the idea here is, you can already stream some of these games like Fortnite from the cloud to your phone or PC, and they'd like to extend that to your Samsung TV, or a little Roku like puck type device that you could plug in. So they're planning on rolling the puck like device over the next 12 months, as well as I think developing an app for Samsung smart TVs. And the real goal here is just get people playing on Xbox's ecosystem, playing Fortnite, maybe Halo Infinite or a few other things without investing in a console. So there's a lot of people who are maybe not quite in the niche of gamers who are interested in playing one or two very mainstream games like Fortnite. So kind of an interesting play. I mean, they're still trying to push consoles, so I imagine their hope is to eventually convert you into a console sale. But at the end of the day, if they have you within Microsoft's bubble, that seems to be their ultimate goal. So any thoughts about
yeah,
this?
man. The future is coming. No, I think we've been expecting this for a long time, and I really do think that Xbox is very rapidly approaching. Well, maybe not. I just feel like they're very rapidly approaching this future they believe in, where consoles don't exist, and I'm someone who just doesn't quite see that ever happening, because I think there will always be the more hardcore enthusiast people out there who want to have that console, right? But as much as the hardcore and the enthusiast is important to a company, they also care about the tens of millions of people who are not that, right? The casual people out there. And so with them doing this, I mean, think about it. If Xbox is on a smart TV, if you have to plug it in like an Amazon stick or whatever, your subscription numbers could easily go from 20, 25 million. I forget what they're at right now to, I mean, 30, 40, 50 million is possible once you lower that barrier to entry that much. So, um, yeah, I mean, this is not surprising. It's very intriguing to see where the industry is going to go. If this is as successful and easy to use as I'm sure Microsoft is hoping, man, that would be a game changer for the industry, and
Yeah.
I think that would be probably very concerning for Sony, being that they really have not invested in this whatsoever at this point that we're aware of. So, yeah, It'll be interesting to see. I'm curious. I'm a little bit curious what the price point will be, right? Because they have the
Mm-hmm.
Series S, which is that 300 or is it 250? I think it's 300.
Somewhere, yeah, I
So
don't remember. I think
I
it's
would
somewhere in there.
imagine, I would imagine the goal for this shtick, whatever they're going to call it, this puck. Um, and the other thing is you'll still need a controller, right? So if you're truly targeting casual people,
Yeah, I think
do
this
you
thing has to be
bundle it
under
with a
100.
controller? So
Yeah,
my
I
my
would think
my
so.
thought would be my thought would be you can get this. Let's say you can get this puck for $30,
Yeah,
or maybe $50, and then or you can get a bundle with a controller for 100. I don't know. I don't think they go above 100 because
that's just
otherwise
what I
you
was
you
thinking. Yeah,
it's too confusing. You get too close to the Series S. I think they really want to keep this as low as they can so that your average Joe out there is like, oh, I can have Netflix, Hulu, and Game Pass. Then
yeah.
here we go. So
I think you're right. Not Netflix. Microsoft has economies of scale on their side. They can take losses here and there. So I could see them saying this needs to be $99 or lower. Like once you surpass $100, you start to get into the conversation of why not spend 200 and something and just have a console. So I think if they can make this 99, 89, $79 and it includes a controller, I think they have a much better shot of getting in with a lot of people, whether they're not hardcore gamers or maybe they're grandparents whose grandkids visit quite a bit and they want to have something where they can play when they visit without investing a whole lot of money. So I agree. It seems like there's a huge market here. Very curious to see how this plays out. All right, our ninth story is probably a quick one, but kind of interesting. FIFA and EA are officially breaking up. It's not going to work out. They're going to be on
yay!
trial, much like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We're going to be watching their divorce, their bitter, contentious divorce. Actually, it'll probably be less interesting than that. But as a side note, it's kind of depressing to watch someone's like bitter divorce trials, but it is interesting. Anyway, FIFA and EA are splitting
Our
up.
ninth story
Uh,
has taken a turn.
our ninth story is Johnny Depp and Amber
Johnny
Heard.
Depp and Amber Heard.
We're gonna go deep, folks. Yeah. So anyway, FIFA and EA are splitting up. 30-year partnership that's ending. It seems like they were clashing over exclusivity and licensing costs. Um, I guess this isn't surprising, given that apparently last year FIFA was wanting to double the $150 million that EA was already paying to license FIFA as a brand, which is a lot of money. So if they're wanting twice that, I can understand why. EA's newest soccer game is not going to be FIFA. It'll be called EA Sports FC, which I have to say feels pretty generic sounding, but maybe it'll be good. Um, and FIFA has promised to partner with other developers for, quote, the only authentic real game. So they're getting a bit snippy there, trying to
Also
say that
generic.
also, yeah, but I think they're trying to say if you want the real soccer game, you're going to go with wherever FIFA is. I think they're trying to make the point that the 300 million or whatever they're expecting from EA would have been worth it. I have no idea, but I know that is kind of a cash cow, so that's interesting. Any thoughts on this? Or Amber Heard
Um.
and Johnny Depp, either.
Oh man, if I had to pick, we're gonna stick with FIFA and EA. But my thoughts are torn on this because I truly hate. I truly like almost top of my list in video games. I hate EA and what they've done to sports games. I grew up playing Madden. Madden 2007 was like one of my favorite games as a kid. Played that disc till it couldn't play anymore. Actually, it still does. I still have it, but um, I haven't played a Madden game in over a decade because EA has
Mm-hmm.
just ruined sports games. It's just a casino, and it sucks. So I don't play FIFA, and I would love to think that this is really going to stick it to EA, and EA is going to come out with their sports FC, and it's going to sell 5% of what FIFA sells. And part of me wonders if it might, because FIFA is that it's like one of the biggest games in the world, but it's also so recognizable as FIFA. Like it's
Right.
just that word FIFA, right?
Yeah.
You might not know
It's like
hardly anything
NFL.
about video.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might not know anything about video games, but you go to the store and you know what FIFA is and you get FIFA. So now that it's been changed to EA Sports FC, they're going to have to really, really back some marketing to get the entire world to be like, oh, Sports FC is now FIFA. I'm really curious to see how this all lands. Who takes up FIFA? I would love to see FIFA be taken up by someone who actually puts a little soul into it and makes a good game. But I don't believe that to be the case because of the amount of money. This is
Right.
all about just gross amounts of money. I mean, you mentioned them wanting double. I just looked it up. An estimate on what FIFA brings in every year is $766.5 million. Like
Right.
it's just stupid. And so FIFA, if they're leaving EA, no doubt they want to turn to someone else and say, hey, we want you to make the same amount of money, or we want to make what we were going to make from EA, what we asked. And so the people they give it to are going to want to do what FIFA does. They're going to want to keep
Right.
the FIFA train rolling, right? So we're never going to get the sports games that we want, I guess, is the conclusion I'm coming to live here on Neverlag. But
Right.
it's a bummer. That's a bummer to kind of think about. I am curious to see who wins out, because I think now we're going to literally have two FIFAs.
Mm-hmm.
So who wins out, the name brand or EA? And you kind of have to figure the name brand, as long as they do a good job with the game, the name brand would win out. But we'll
I would
see.
think so. It's going to come down to the execution of whoever this other developer is. Also, maybe to some extent, how their marketing strategy. But given the game is decent, playable, and has some level of marketing support, it feels like the name brand would likely win. And like you said, if they're expecting $300 million just for licensing costs, the incentives for whoever the developer is to make this a wildly profitable game. And what's the way you do that with a FIFA title? You monetize it like crazy. So I don't I don't necessarily expect this will make the game like a return to form for true fans in any way. It'll probably be a similar version from a different developer, but we'll see. All right, our 10th and penultimate story is a quick recap of Nintendo Indie World. A lot of titles were announced. We'll drop a link so you can go see all of them. I'll just highlight a couple that looked interesting to me, and then you can do the same. But we have a few here.
All right, don't
Batora
take mine.
Lost. Okay, I'll try not to. Batora Lost Haven is a multi-platform action RPG that supposedly is deeply story-driven with choices, a morality system, some type of hack and slash gameplay, and some shooter segments. That looks kind of cool. Elekhead, I guess is how you say it, is a 2D puzzle platformer where you navigate like a power plant or warehouse. You're a little electricity dude with a little power plug head. And this looks kind of fun because you can like detach your little head and put it across like gaps to complete certain puzzle elements. But if you don't reattach your head within 10 seconds, you die. That sounds like a fun little mechanic. Another one that looked kind of interesting, but like maybe not. This is kind of in line with like what is it, Goat Simulator, Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, which is a ragdoll physics fighting game where you can fight as samurai, knights, cavemen, and fight various things from history or fantasy, woolly mammoths, whatever. That looks Honestly, that looks wild. And the final one I thought looked really cool, actually, was Another Crab's Treasure. And this one is the developer calls it a Shells-like game, playing off of Souls-like, where you play as this adorable hermit crab thing, and you fight giant monsters. And your goal is to buy back your repossessed shell. And in the meantime, you have to salvage various items to use as your temporary shell, with a bunch of different options. It looks visually appealing, sounds like a fun idea. But there's a lot of other stuff that was kind of neat too. So what did you think about the Nintendo Indie World showcase?
I thought this was a winner. I mean, this was by no means like the big showcase. I mean, we kind of knew that going in. It's a little indie show, and I thought they had a lot of good stuff here. It's always subjective. I don't know. I don't know how much variety they had. It feels like it's decent variety, but I'm sure there's some people who walked away from this with almost nothing. But for me personally, um, almost everything was at least semi interesting,
That's how I felt.
and there were quite Yeah, and there were quite a few that I was like, I'm gonna bookmark these. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I thought it was Elec Head. I don't know. I thought that
Thinking
looked really cool.
electric, but maybe it's elec
Yeah,
head.
yeah. I thought that looked really cool. It's a very
Yeah.
simplistic, kind of like a 32-bit, um, very very simple design. I'm sure we'll have video overlaid, and everything you. I think when you're on a platform, anything you touch becomes electrified,
Mm-hmm.
and to various results. Maybe a platform moves, or whatever it may be, and each kind of screen you enter is its own puzzle, and it just looks like a very satisfying puzzle game. I mean, it has some basic core mechanics, like you said, and it feels like it could really execute well on those. And I'm actually really looking forward to that one. That one comes out. Was it just a summer release date? I thought they said June, but either way, it should be pretty soon.
Yeah.
Excited about that one. Gunbrella, I thought looked really cool, which I'm normally these games never really break through the barrier for me. It's more of a 16-bit
Mm-hmm.
side-scrolling I don't know if it's an RPG action game,
Mm-hmm.
where you literally have a gun for an umbrella. I remember when I was watching this live, I was like, they're gonna call it Gunbrella, which isn't that much of a leap because he's literally running around with an umbrella and shooting out of it.
Yeah.
But I felt mildly clever. I was like, called it.
Mm-hmm.
But this looks weirdly fun. It looks like they really just went in on, again, one mechanic. You have a gun that you can open up and like use as a shield and use it for
Like
kind of
swinging.
gliding,
Yeah.
swinging. You can use it as a
Mm-hmm.
gun. It looks like they leaned into the Gunbrella. That's going to be your mechanic, and it looks kind of fun. I like the aesthetic. It kind of had a western. I don't know what
Noir,
else
kind of like
western
a
mix.
Western noir punk
Yeah, yeah.
sort of feel. Yeah.
You're just reading their buzzwords. Nice job.
No,
Yeah, it looks
that's
good
a
though.
hundred
I liked it.
percent original.
All you. I also like Silt. I'm looking forward to that one. We've seen that one before though, but it,
Mm-hmm.
it really reminds me of Limbo or maybe
Yeah.
Inside, which are just excellent games. So hopefully it can kind of capture that same very black and white,
Mm-hmm.
creepy, light puzzle type gameplay. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
And I think the only other one that was mostly it. Mini Motorways looked kind of cool just because it's another very low key puzzle
Mm-hmm.
game where you're essentially, I think that's the one where you're creating a town. The art style looks very nice, and you're
Yeah.
essentially trying to create the town in an efficient way where when there's new needs that arise or new buildings, um, everything flows well, traffic and pedestrians and whatever. And it just looks like a really
Yeah.
zen puzzle game that would be great for the Switch. So, yeah, definitely a few things to bookmark. I mean, we'll have to put in a little video recapping it all quickly, but it's worth going through to kind of bookmark a few for the next year. I was disappointed to see Gumbrellas not till 2023, but
Yeah.
some good stuff here.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of things I bookmarked. So we'll overlay a couple of things, but we'll also drop a link so you can go look at each of these, see what the release dates all are, and add whatever you want. So let's move on to our final story. Scientists, with all their crazy sciency ways, have invented mouth haptic feedback for VR.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Oh,
Is it an NFT? I don't think so. I don't think so.
it
No. So
sounds
what
so creepy.
it does? So there's a video. We'll overlay it, but some folks have developed basically like an attachment or a piece that goes with like your VR headset that simulates a various like things you could feel on your mouth or around your face. The example given that's super creepy is in the video. They simulate spiders on your
Yeah,
face. So
so
like
so seriously, what
super
is the
creepy.
deal with this demo? If you're trying to sell this product and you're like, look at this technology we've created, whose idea was it to have like a spider goo web themed mouth haptic feedback demo? What who did
What do
that?
customers love? Spiders on their face and in their mouth. Yeah. I think there's probably a horror niche here where it's like it sounds so creepy. You just want to try it for yourself. But this
Oh,
feels more like a
I don't.
concept thing. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
want to feel spiders on my face, but it gave some other examples of like, feeling water as you drink from a water fountain, which
Yeah, I was
uh,
gonna say, why not do a waterfall or like a waterfall,
yeah.
like
I
something
like
a
how it
little
says
more
water
pleasant.
fountain as if we haven't experienced that just in your day to day. Or here's where it gets more interesting, right? Like you're on a motorcycle in a video game, you can feel the breeze on your face. Or there's a waterfall, you can feel the mist from
Yeah,
the waterfall.
there you
Things
go.
like that, actually, I think are pretty interesting. I think it's eye catching to say spiders on your face. So I don't
I
know if that's a
guess.
good
Yeah,
marketing tactic or a bad one, but yeah,
hilarious. Very
if
hilarious.
you're
I think
interested,
we're entering a new era, people,
yeah,
where you've got your reviews are going to come out, and you've got your audio design, and you've got your gameplay, and you've got your story, and then you've got your mouth feel, and we're going to have to
right,
describe. Okay, you like the game, but how is the mouth feel?
right.
Uh,
Elden Ring, is it a 10 out of 10? How's the
Great
mouthfeel of
game,
Elden Ring?
really bad mouth feel though.
The
It
sword in your
it probably
mouth,
knocked it down to a
not
6.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was the real problem with Elden Ring's launch, was the mouthfeel. Um,
yeah. What a weird situation, and it's
so there
such
you
a
have
weird
it,
looking
folks.
contraption too. So
It is. Well, we'll
I don't
put
know.
pictures up. But if
Yeah,
you
we'll
would
see
like
if
spiders on your face, check out the video.
check out the video. We'll see if Sony feels like retrofitting this to their VR before it comes out, so that they can have this horrible, horrifying, awful spider game with great mouthfeel. So exciting stuff. But yeah, there you have it. We made it through. That'll wrap up this week in gaming. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll catch you next time on Neverlag.